Paintball nerd.
All right, today's guest on Paintball Nerds Fun 5, we have an individual who went pro in 2001 with the Ironmen. In 2003, he joined his best friends on Dynasty and has been winning ever since. He's got over 60 first place victories. He's co-owner of Field 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Yosh Rau. Hey, Yosh.
Hey, everybody. Hey, it's Isaac. Thanks for having me on.
Hey. Yeah, man, absolute pleasure. Thanks for making the time to do this.
You know, it's always a cool thing to have somebody care enough to actually, want to ask you some questions and hear what you have to say. But even cooler that it's you, Isaac, because we have such a long history together.
We do, man. I have a lot of really awesome memories, even though we were only teammates for a short time. You taught me some pretty amazing things. I remember when I first made the team. I don't even know if you remember this. Let me know if you do. But we were doing a drill. It was on SC. Is at SC Village on the old X field, and it was like a 3-on-2 or something like that. And I remember I went to the X and I bunkered someone on the other side, and then you were in the corner and you shot me, and I played on and I shot you back, and then you like raised up and shot me like 4 or 5 times and said, "What's wrong with you?" And I never heard you like raise your voice in anger ever. And it stuck out because I'm like, and I probably never played on an X-Ball and never got a penalty because of that moment. But do you remember
that? Vaguely. But I don't remember it. I don't remember it in a way where like I remember you playing on or anything like that.
Really?
It maybe sounds like I was. It maybe sounds like I was being a dick. I don't know.
But that's not you though. That's not you. So I clearly did something. And you were nice to me forever after that. But that was like one moment I was sure that I was never going to do something like that again.
Well, that's a cool thing. And it wasn't hard to be nice to you after that. I mean, you were one of the nicest guys that played on the team with me there. You know how it is, like when you are in the heat of the moment, you're seeing things at like this accelerated rate, and your perception of like, how much extra time that player may have stayed on the field or how many extra shots he might have taken gets like totally expanded, right? Because things are going kind of in slow motion for you out there. At least that's your perception. I feel like I've had that reaction a couple of times to players, and I can't say that all of them have had your takeaway from it, but that's a cool thing. I mean, there is certainly this kind of like this fine line, right, where you're doing your team a service or a disservice based on like this. It could be a part of a second, or it could be a couple of seconds, but it's like, those choices you make in those little moments. But you probably didn't deserve to be shot a couple extra times, so sorry about that.
No, it obviously impactful in a positive way.
All right, good.
And another thing I remember coming from you is it is impossible to win an argument in paintball because both parties are absolutely positive that they are correct.
Yeah, that is I'll say it's a lesson that I'm always still trying to learn, and that actually came up in kind of an interesting way in our Dynasty practices leading up to World Cup. The way that came up was, slightly askew from that, but basically we were developing this tendency amongst the team and the team members, myself included, to really want to have your point be the one that's accepted, when oftentimes what we're describing to each other, first of all, we're all trying to help each other, right? We're trying to build to this thing and become the best version of our team and the best version of ourselves individually as we get to World Cup. But the way that we were talking to each other was interesting. It was like we were all basically saying the same things, but it resulted in an argument, and it took some I'll say some bright minds on the team, and it wasn't me, but to identify that this was happening, and to say in front of the group, like, hey guys, we're losing time, we're being less efficient here because we're arguing over this point that's important, but we all get it, right? We're all saying the same thing, we're just saying it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And if we can just kind of, I think some of that comes down to ego, right? Like you want to make sure that the group is taking in what you have to say, and even if they don't agree with you, at least taking in what you have to say. But what you're doing is you're kind of like bogging down the conversation by just wanting to put your spin on it. And at a certain point in the practices, we got over that. It came back up again. We had to kind of restate that was happening, and it helped the team. It helped the team to move on past certain points of discussion that were important, but didn't need to be talked about for an hour.
Yeah.
And part of that was just like accepting that this guy is going to have the floor to make his point, and then we're going to take our time to absorb that. And if it's basically something I agree with, I'm going to shut the hell up and I'm just going to go with it. And that's a powerful thing when you have a bunch of very qualified, very intellectual, at least paintball wise, but experienced and intellectual paintball players all trying to engage and put in input, right? You have to be efficient with that.
Yeah, because certainly every single person engaged in that does know what they're talking about. That can't really be debated. And you got to find a balance between like letting everyone have their voice and progressing through the issue and actually solving it.
Right. So it kind of goes along with what you were talking about there.
Yeah, certainly. Another thing I remember, Yosh, is like, and this really was a time when I recognized that you thought differently than other players. It was a time when we were doing another drill, is at Rich's Field, and it was this awful drill where the shooters got to shoot the runners, and it was like a bunker that was really close to each other, and the shooter got to stand outside the bunker, and all the runner had to do was run outside of his bunker and dive into a bunker without getting shot. And I hated that drill because everyone was getting their head blown off. Like we're just running into a gun. But the only person that was shooting me was you, because I figured out how to dive in, but then you figured out how to shoot like the spot that I was diving at instead of like trying to shoot me. And you kept blowing my head off. And then I was like, oh man, Yosh figured out my thing. And that was another thing that that really stuck out.
Yeah, it's funny. I will say we still do those types of drills. Especially to kind of dissect a layout, right? To figure out what spots are makeable and figure out percentages of success and making certain spots and shooting certain bad guys. And, you can kind of, you can only break down a field by figuring out what spots you're going to have to deal with after a breakout, right? And so we still do that. And I know it's like a horrible experience and a horrible drill for the front guys on our team, because they're like, okay, runners down there, shooters down here, and how easy to just like repeatedly step into the back center and shoot your gun. And these guys that are running, they have success a percentage of the time, and you got to think like, oh, that feels good. But even when they have success and they make it, they're still throwing their body down on the turf. It's brutal, but like we have a lot of resources, and we haven't really figured out a better way to do that, to gather that kind of statistical information and to develop the muscle memory correctly, right? So that drill sucks, but but participants in that drill, I will say, have certainly made me a better paintball player, and have helped me to prepare for events in a way where, sometimes I feel like I'm the most effective guy out there at shooting a certain spot. And it's only because a teammate has lent his body to, doing that drill repeatedly over and over and over again. So I'm truly appreciative for players who go down on the runner's side,
Yeah. That's evidence of a good drill, is if it actually helps you develop something that's necessary or valued in the game. So yeah, that's certainly a positive thing. One more memory, Yosh, and then I want to hear from you on like your favorite memory. but I have to share this because it was impactful too. But it was when you took Maddie and I to the coffee shop in PB and told us that you were leaving Ironmen, and I cried like a little baby. That was that, but I knew it was like like I knew that you were going home.
Yeah. Conversations like that are always incredibly difficult. I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it's like it's a breakup, right? But it's,
Yeah.
for me, it's never been a breakup where it's like, oh, I got to get out of this relationship. It's been a breakup like I need to go in a different direction, and this is going to be better for me, and this is what I want to do. And so in that way, it's different from, let's say a romantic relationship breakup. Um, I've always felt like, and this hasn't left paintball. I know it still exists. Maybe it doesn't exist as much, but I've always seen kind of like the tribalism in paintball, right? Like we're all in these different tribes, and it's extremely important to each individual person to like represent your tribe, and these are your tribesmen, and these are your brothers, and these are the people that you'll lay it down for. And so for me, it's never taken long to develop that with a group that I'm in. And the Ironmen, man, I have so many great memories and so many strong connections with the guys that helped me to turn pro and helped to develop me in those first couple of years. It was even though I was absolutely sure of my decision and my move to go to Dynasty and play with, all of these guys that I've known forever and started playing paintball with. It was still an incredibly difficult thing to not only break that news, but like to kind of think of the repercussions that would come along with that, and it was unknown. It was unknown, but imaginable still.
Yeah. And paintball is just full of these different types of memories. Obviously, there's positive ones, there's negative ones, there's ones that are valuable lessons, and there's ones that's like you think like, why did I remember that? Why did that stick out? So, Yosh, for you, I mean, you've got thousands of memories. I know that you just got off a three-peat victory at World Cup. Man, congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. It's a special weekend for sure on
Yeah.
multiple levels.
So, what would you say is like the most memorable moment for you in paintball?
I think it's probably impossible for me to single out one moment as my most memorable, but there are a couple. I can kind of touch on them briefly, so we can kind of move through them. But one memory that really stands out for me, and it was a brief phone call with my parents, and it was almost directly after we won Spider Cup in I think it was 1999. I want to say 2000 because the cars we won were 2000 cars, but I think it was in 1999. I was still in high school. Ryan and I were going to the same high school. I called my parents after we won, and I told my parents that we won the cars. And from what I remember of the conversation, they didn't really realize that we were out there like playing for cars, and what? Like there was kind of a little bit of confusion on the other end of the line. And I said it again, and obviously like we were celebrating, and on my side of the phone in Pennsylvania, everybody there knew exactly what was going on. And my parents were a little confused, and then quickly like kind of caught on to the idea, and they were just like, I could almost sense through the phone that their idea of what I had been doing for the past few years and like the potential for what I was doing and my involvement in it, and really the dedication that I had put into it for through my entire high school years. I didn't participate in much other stuff than paintball, and I could just get the sense from my parents that they started to understand. And it's not just because like, oh, cool, he got a car, all right, he's good to go. There was like a little bit of redemption and a little bit of validity with that, but I think maybe it was from winning a big event, and they're like, wow, that's cool. He's across the country, he's playing with his friends, they just won something cool and big. That's that in itself is an accomplishment regardless of what the prize was. So that's very memorable. The other memories, and like you said, it, there's thousands, and we continue to make more. And you go through life, and there's good ones and there's bad ones, and I'm extremely thankful to have so many good memories. One of the newer ones, and it's almost like I have this in my mind on repeat, because I think it's happened enough times where just like it feels natural, but every time it's extremely special. But at this World Cup, something that I will never forget is one of our huddles on Sunday, and just like being in there, everyone has been wearing their gear all day. Everyone is sweating. Everyone is on the same page. Everyone is in there fully, like you're chest to back with another guy. You all got your hands in there, and you look around, and what could be this moment that is like everyone getting so fucking riled up and pumped up. You look around, and it's like it's wet eyes all the way around, and it's this incredibly emotional connection.
Yeah.
And you feel, when you see this and you experience this together with your boys, it's like you can't help but feel that you also are invincible at that point, right? Like it's not just you've got your entire group all going to take this step together, and it's an extremely powerful feeling. And I don't know that everybody gets to experience that, but when you are there, and if you get that moment, it's truly magical.
I don't think everyone gets to experience that. Even people that make it to the finals, I don't think they get to experience what you described. And I think that even watching it on camera doesn't capture it all the way. But I could see your face, knowing you, and I could see what you were going through emotionally when Oliver was giving his speech, and it was just like, I know that there was intense feelings there. And I think those are really like the moments that's what keeps you coming back. That's what keeps you loving the game. Are those moments. And man, cherish them, Yosh, because like I said, I don't think even for teams that have made the finals, I don't believe they get to experience them on the level that you experience them with those guys.
I think you're probably right. I think that's part of the magic that we have in the Dynasty camp, and that we'll always have, because we have the individuals that we have,
And it goes back to what you're saying about Spider Cup, because guess what? Ryan and Alex and Oliver all shared that memory too. I mean, not Oliver. Oliver didn't share that memory, but because he wasn't on the team, he went pro already.
but he probably remembers it.
Yeah, he does.
He's still shared in that memory.
But yeah, Alex and Ryan both said that was their most memorable thing was winning that. So, and because you guys have that history, you lead up to a moment like this World Cup, and it's like you guys have been through it together. You guys have been there, done that, and it's like here's another moment for you. It's special.
And it's not just those guys. I mean, it's. Apologies for the phone ringing here. I'm in the shop.
No worries.
But it's let me actually make a quick adjustment here. If you watch this later and you're the one that called, I apologize. So it's not just Ryan and Alex anymore, even though they're a huge part of what keeps me hungry and keeps me connected to the game. But we have a lot of individuals on the team that have become a part of that brotherhood and have that emotional connection. And man, it's so powerful, to look around and see like all of these grown men who have their own lives and have been through their own stuff and have made the choice to be there, whatever sacrifices they've made. And it's been, for a lot of them, decades now of making those sacrifices and making those choices to get them to that moment. And everyone there is sharing that moment, you know, and it's an extremely powerful thing. It's something that I feel great now, confidently saying that that won't go away when I'm done competing with paintball. You know, those guys and that connection is there and will always be there now. And that's really cool.
So out of those guys, Yosh, I mean, this is probably not going to be fair, so I'm not going to make you pick one, but do you have a favorite player?
You know, I've been asked that in the past, and I've reached back and thought about players that were like big name players when I was coming up in paintball, right? When we weren't all established as pros and we hadn't won, our handful of tournaments or whatever. And it was easy because there were so many great players around Mare Island paintball games where we grew up playing. We got a lot of experience playing around like the world's best players at that time. But, you know, enough years have gone by now that those guys have, I've like given those guys the respect they deserve. And, great players back then are still great players in my mind. But I mean, there's no question for me that my favorite two players are Alex and Ryan. I mean, there's really nothing that, from my perspective, or I feel like anyone else's perspective couldn't put those guys up there for themselves either. I mean, they each have brought so much to the team and to me personally over the years, and they're both incredibly important for how the team has grown and where we are right now, and also important to me as a individual, and my personal growth and learning about relationships and learning about qualities that you want to be around people with certain qualities, and these guys have shown me that over and over and over again.
What are some qualities that Ryan and Alex have?
Well, Ryan gets credit for being a hardworking paintball player, being maybe the most professional paintball player out there. And I was actually thinking about this for some reason on my drive into work today. But the thing that Ryan does that I can't say any other player matches him in is that he brings his individual skill and his individual value, and he applies that to our team and to our organization and lifts the organization with that. It's easy to say that a player is going to lift a team with his individual play, but Ryan brings like the entire package. I mean, he's not only in every game potentially the most dominant force on the field, and obviously that helps, and that's won the team championships over the years, but he's also always been there as a loyal teammate and a friend and a leader, and worked on his own personal stuff and used that to help elevate the team and bring new opportunities to the team and to players. And that goes a really, really long way, So yeah, I mean, there's so many things about Ryan that are special, but his ability to take his own individual value and apply that to the team and allow the team to rise off of that is truly special, and I think unique, in how effective he is with that. As for Alex, I mean, Alex and I have always been extremely close because we've shared a lot of interests. But the thing that Alex does for the team is he provides vision. There's a term and there's kind of like a title that people have that I feel is kind of cliche, and it's like a difficult thing to apply to somebody, because it's like almost like putting them up at this status that is, I don't know, it's maybe too lofty. But for our team, Alex is like our visionary. He without even needing to express exactly what the path is in front of us and where he kind of wants it to go. He understands it for himself, and he pushes the team. He pushes each individual. He finds different ways to talk to guys, and he's always kind of kept that path. And I mean, I'm speaking for him here, but I feel like he's always kept the path of the team at the forefront, and has always been instrumental in the decisions that the team has made. And, you know, some of those decisions and some of those actions he's taken upon himself and just made the absolute right move. And again, we're talking about on the field and off the field, you know, personal relationships, how to handle different situations, and then obviously playing on the field. And he's just always been there to make the right decision, and the team has relied on him to do that. And, you know, I've had, I mean, call it luck, but we grew up in the same area, and we played paintball at the same time when we were starting out. And I've had now the privilege to, you know, be with him throughout most of that and benefit from his vision and his guidance through so much.
Yeah, it sounds like Alex and Ryan have really been like really the glue that's kind of brought you and Oliver like in like that group. And obviously you guys have added to that group, but it sounds like Alex and Ryan are really like the bonding agent.
I think there's no question. You know, I mean, the timeline shows that they're the constant. You know,
Yeah.
That's plain for anyone to see. Not everyone fully understands the inner workings of the team. Not everyone fully understands all of the individual relationships. But yeah, I mean, you said it. They're the constant and they're the glue. And without the two of those guys, I think probably without the two of those guys together, I don't know that any of this would still be holding on together.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to imagine it certainly without them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Yosh, do you have anything that you've kept over the years that's like your special I don't know, like your special paintball item?
Not really, to be honest. I'm trying to think because I think it's cool to have superstitions, but I don't think I do. You know, I mean, the things that I've kept with me and that I try to always keep with me are my memories, right? Like my memories
Yeah.
of lessons I've learned, and um, individuals that I've been around that have made an impression on me. And yeah, I guess I'd be in big trouble if I lose that. But yeah, you know, I haven't attached too much of that to a single item. I mean, I have like a small shelf in my room that I have, you know, still a trophy, and I think I have one Dynasty trophy. It's the first Huntington Beach event trophy that I got when I returned to the team, and I have our Spider Cup plaque. I've collected like the medals over the years, but all of those things are, you know, I don't really have attachment to those. Really, there's just memories attached to those, and that's
Yeah.
why I like to keep them around. You know, I've always loved paintball gear. I just haven't made a habit of like holding on to it for a long time. I kind of have this like clean out every year or two, where it's like if I'm not using something, put it in someone's hands who will. You know.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, my favorite piece of paintball gear right now is my force. I mean, it's not, that's an obvious answer, right? But it's not because we're sponsored by Field One and I'm an owner of the company. It's because building these guns and creating this brand and creating our own paintball marker that our team gets to use is kind of the fulfillment of a dream for me. You know,
Yeah.
it's I grew up rifling through the pages of action pursuit games. I read some articles, but mostly I looked at gear. You know, I looked at the advertisements for the gear that was out, the current stuff. I looked at pictures of players to see what was cool. And in the back of my mind, it was always a dream that someday I would not only have this stuff, but I would be like making this stuff and creating this
Wow.
stuff. And now, we have the opportunity to do that. And, it's again, it's made possible by my teammates, but also made possible by the paintball community at large, who have supported us through this entire dream and now support us by shooting Field 1 paintball guns.
Yeah. And certainly you had to play your role in that too, like if you could, this will probably be hard to verbalize, but you didn't wake up and you were owner of a paintball company. You didn't wake up and you were world champion. So for those that want to get to that level, what advice would you give? What does it take to make it in the industry to where you're at, and also as a professional player?
Well, I think those are two separate things.
Yep.
For most people, those are two separate paths. We've been lucky to be able to do both. And some of that comes from like successes as a paintball player, kind of like led us into this path to become part of the paintball industry as well. And we're always working at that, right? There's nothing that could possibly be healthier for the paintball industry than to have new companies, new people coming in with new ideas, new brands, and people supporting those, and having, small companies become big companies. That's like paramount for an industry to continue to grow. So I think that's a separate conversation. But what I would say about my path to where we're at now, as a paintball player, the formula has been really just make sure you're around people that you love being around. The work that goes into it doesn't need to be portrayed as hard work. I mean, we're playing a game that we love, and even getting down to like the minutia of like the most basic fundamentals, drills, things like that. That stuff should still always be fun. Also, I mean, it's still a privilege to be able to go and shoot free paint, or to even have the time on your weekend to go buy a case of paint and go play with friends, right? Mm-hmm. Like that should be my view on that. That's always been a privilege. And the thing that I consider that to be most lucky about is that I've always been able to do that with friends. It's always kept me coming back. So for people out there that are wondering, like, how do I advance? If you're around people that you love being around, then you're gonna put in the work. You're gonna be more willing to sacrifice. You're gonna be more willing to exchange, your time at home or your time at work or your time with loved ones to pursue this dream, because you're doing it with people that you appreciate and love as well. So it sounds simple. I know it's not always that way, but that's my guidance.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly got a lot to be thankful for, Yosh. It's like you're living the dream. You're living a lot of people's dream, I'd say. So what would you say that you're most thankful for that paintball has brought you in life?
Well, the thing that I'm most thankful for is 1,000 things, but it's those 1,000 things are all people, right? It's the relationships that I have found and developed and grown with my teammates and with other people in the league and around the industry, and even people who don't play in the league but have, we found our ways into this sphere that we share. And those relationships are incredibly important. Obviously, the relationships that I have with my teammates are some of the most important ones. But beyond that, paintball has created relationships for my personal life as well, and I'm incredibly thankful that I have my wife, Melissa, who fully understands what it is that I'm doing and is completely supportive, even when it would be easier for her if I was home, right? It would be easier for her if we had a more predictable schedule. she still is incredibly supportive and loving, and that only makes it easier for me to, perform, enjoy, really really pull the most out of this dream or this experience that I have in front of me. And that's, I mean, it's like extremely valuable to like be able to pull the most out of it. This opportunity is, it's only here now, and you don't get any of those moments back. And to be able to fully, be in it and not be looking over your shoulder with regret is like an incredibly special thing. And my wife not only affords me that, but she supports all of that.
Awesome, Yosh. Man, thank you so much for your time here today and sharing with us. Is there anything that you'd like to part with for the paintball nerds out there?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I also appreciate just the, you kind of having this interview outlet for people to watch, right? I mean, there's hopefully there's good information, and hopefully there's even just a little tidbit of inspiration for people, even if it's just like, hey, I heard Alex is a visionary. I'm gonna, I'm gonna find someone like that in my life, right? To like,
Yeah,
be attached to and have a relationship with. Those things are great. I don't know, I guess my parting words are, paintball for me has always been about having fun. I mean, winning has been kind of a byproduct of our experience in our relationships, and the idea that we love the game and that we have found each other and we've cultivated this love for the game together. The focus doesn't always have to be on winning. It should be more about fun and your experience. And if you find the right group of people to do that with, then winning will follow.
awesome. Thank you, Yosh.
Thank you, Isaac.